There was once a man who had everything, a business empire that stretched across continents, a loving family, and respect that made even the most powerful bow their heads. But fate, as it often does, had other plans written in the cruelest ink. It started on a rainy Tuesday evening when the board meeting that would change everything took place. The man sat at the head of the table, confident, trusting those he had mentored for years. His younger brother sat to his right, the one he had raised after their parents died. His best friend and business partner sat across from him, the same friend who had been by his side since college, when they had nothing but dreams and empty pockets. The presentation began normally, quarterly reports, expansion plans, new ventures, but then came the motion he never expected, a vote of no confidence. His own brother proposed it. His best friend seconded it. And one by one, the board members he had handpicked, the executives he had nurtured, raised their hands against him. The accusations flew like poison arrows: mismanagement of funds, unauthorized transactions, evidence fabricated so perfectly that even he almost believed it for a moment. They had planned this meticulously, waiting for the perfect time when he was most vulnerable, when his wife was ill and his attention divided. Within 48 hours, everything crumbled. The company bore his name, but the shares had been cleverly redistributed over the years through contracts he had signed without reading carefully. Trusting the very people who now betrayed him, the legal battles were swift and brutal. Lawyers he thought were his turned out to be theirs. Documents he never signed appeared with his perfect signature. Bank accounts he never opened showed suspicious transactions. His wife, already weak from her illness, couldn't bear the shock and stress. She passed away 3 weeks after the takeover, her last words a whisper asking him to stay strong, to remember who he truly was. His teenage daughter looked at him with confused eyes, unable to understand how their perfect life had shattered like glass. The final humiliation came when they evicted him from his own mansion. His brother stood at the door, a cruel smile playing on his lips, offering an envelope with a small amount of money inside, calling it severance pay. The same brother he had put through university, the same brother whose gambling debts he had quietly paid for years. The same brother who now wore expensive suits bought with the empire that should have been their shared legacy, but they made one critical mistake. They let him live. They thought a broken man without resources, without allies, without proof of his innocence was not a threat. They thought humiliation and poverty would be enough to bury him forever. They were wrong. The man disappeared, not dramatically, not with threats or promises of return. He simply faded into the shadows of the city where he once stood tall. His daughter, the only family he had left, he sent to study abroad under a different name, protecting her from the vultures who might use her against him. For 3 years, silence. The company thrived under new management. His brother became the celebrated CEO. Featured in magazines, winning business awards, the former best friend became chairman, hosting charity galas and speaking at conferences about ethics in business. They divided the spoils and congratulated themselves on their genius, but in those 3 years the broken man was rebuilding, not his empire, but something far more dangerous: knowledge, evidence, and alliances. He worked menial jobs by day, washing dishes in restaurants his company used to own, cleaning offices in buildings where his portrait once hung. By night, he studied, planned, and slowly, piece by piece, uncovered the truth about the conspiracy. He found the real accountant who had been forced to create false documents, now living in fear in another city. He discovered the lawyer who had forged his signatures, plagued by guilt and alcoholism. He tracked down the small investors who had been silently squeezed out during the takeover, victims like himself but too intimidated to speak. Most importantly, he learned that his brother and former friend were not partners in triumph but enemies waiting for the right moment to destroy each other. Greed, it seemed, had no loyalty. They were already planning separate moves to betray one another for complete control. The man smiled for the first time in 3 years when he realized this. He wouldn't need to destroy them. He would simply need to create the conditions for them to destroy each other, then step in to reclaim what was rightfully his from the ashes. His return began quietly. A small investment firm registered in a different name. Strategic purchases of minor companies that seemed insignificant, meetings with international partners under a new identity. His appearance changed just enough with a beard, glasses, and 20 pounds of weight he had lost from stress and poverty. He approached the disgruntled shareholders, the ones pushed aside during the takeover. He offered them something his brother and former friend never did: respect, fair prices, and a vision. Slowly, quietly, he began acquiring shares through third parties, shell companies, and trusted allies he carefully vetted. Then came the whispers, anonymous tips to financial regulators about suspicious transactions in the company. Not lies, but carefully revealed truths about the actual corruption his brother and former friend were committing. The same tactics they had used against him, but this time with real evidence. The media began asking questions. Investigative journalists received mysterious packages containing documents. The company's stock started fluctuating. His brother and former friend began suspecting each other, exactly as planned. The man's daughter returned from abroad, now a brilliant young woman with degrees in business and law, ready to stand by her father. Together, they prepared for the final move. The annual shareholders' meeting arrived. The room filled with faces familiar and new. His brother stood at the podium, confident as always. The former friend sat in the front row, smiling his practiced smile. Then the doors opened, and a figure walked in that made the room fall silent. Older, leaner, harder, but unmistakably him. The man they thought they had destroyed stood before them, very much alive and very much in control. The presentation he gave was masterful. Not angry, not bitter, but factual. Years of evidence laid bare. The real conspiracy exposed. The ongoing crimes revealed, and the final revelation: through his strategic acquisitions, he now controlled 43% of the company's shares. Combined with the small investors who pledged their support, he had majority control. His brother's face went pale. His former friend tried to run but found legal authorities waiting outside, alerted to embezzlement charges with ironclad evidence. But the man didn't want revenge in the way they might have expected. He didn't want them imprisoned or destroyed completely. Instead, he offered them a choice: resign peacefully, return what they had stolen, and face reduced legal consequences, or fight and face the full weight of justice with all evidence made public. They chose survival over pride. The company returned to its rightful owner, but he was different now. Wiser, harder, more careful. He rebuilt it not just as a business empire, but as a legacy for his daughter, with systems to prevent betrayal, with loyalty earned not assumed, and with the memory of his wife guiding every ethical decision. The ending wasn't perfect revenge. It was something better: justice, redemption, and the knowledge that integrity, patience, and resilience could overcome even the cruelest betrayal.